Welcome to The Explainer. All right, today we're jumping into a source with a theory that is, well, it's pretty out there. It's about a colossal, hidden structure lurking deep beneath East Asia, a geological feature that some researchers have given a very ominous nickname, the Death Slab. So, it all kicks off with a puzzle. You look at a map of the Pacific Ring of Fire, one of the most seismically active places on the planet, and lately it's been lit up with major quakes all around the rim. But there's one spot that's been strangely, eerily quiet, Japan. And that silence is making some people very nervous. Because according to this theory, that quiet is not a good thing. It's the calm before the storm. A Japanese earth scientist, Ritsuda Koji, calls it the prelude to a disaster trifecta, a series of catastrophes he predicts will hit before 2040. And he doesn't see it as a possibility. He calls it an inevitable sacrifice. To even begin to understand this terrifying prediction, we actually have to go look at a totally different geological mystery, a massive volcano that's in a place it just shouldn't be. This is Changbai Mountain, right on the border between China and North Korea. A few years back, the seismic activity there just went completely nuts. I'm talking, it went from about 10 rumbles a month to over 200. That set off a lot of alarm bells and sparked a huge investigation. The big question was, why is this volcano even here in the first place? So for a little context, most of the volcanoes you probably think of, like the ones all over Japan, are subduction zone volcanoes. It's pretty straightforward. One tectonic plate slides under another, things get hot, rock melts, and boom, you get a volcano. The other main types are mid-ocean ridge volcanoes, where plates are pulling apart. Think Iceland. Or you've got hotspot volcanoes. Hawaii is the classic example there, formed by the Pacific Plate just drifting over a stationary plume of superheated rock, bubbling up from deep inside the Earth. But here's the mystery. Changbai Mountain is nowhere near any of that stuff. It's over 1,000 kilometers away from a plate boundary, and as we're about to find out, it's not a simple hotspot either. For decades, geologists were just scratching their heads. So, the investigation into Changbai's weird behavior led scientists to a place they never, ever expected. They used seismic waves, kind of like an X-ray of the Earth, and they didn't just solve the volcano mystery. Oh no. They found something absolutely immense. The images that came back showed this giant, cold, and really dense structure, 200 kilometers thick, sitting way down there between 400 and 600 kilometers deep. And get this, it looks like it's slicing right through the plume of hot rock that's supposed to be feeding the volcano. So what in the world is this thing? And here is the theory, and it is just astonishing. This isn't some brand new structure they discovered. It is the Pacific tectonic plate itself. But instead of just dipping under the coast like we thought, it's driving horizontally, deep into the mantle, like a gigantic shovel just digging its way 1,200 kilometers inland, right underneath China. Okay, so once you know that, those prophetic warnings about Japan suddenly have a whole new, and frankly terrifying, context. This hidden slab, it could be the very engine driving this entire system straight towards a catastrophe. So the idea is, as the slab keeps grinding deeper and deeper, it's building up an unbelievable amount of stress, and that stress has to go somewhere. The theory says it's going to be released in those 3 events that Japanese scientists have been worried about for a long, long time. A monster quake in the Nankai Trough, a direct hit on Tokyo, and a catastrophic eruption of Mount Fuji. Is there any proof of this? Well, researchers are pointing north to Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, which is sitting on the very same slab. You look at the history, and its big earthquakes used to happen roughly every 100 to 110 years. But in the last century, it looks like a whole new, much faster cycle has started up. And the implication there is just chilling. The entire slab might be picking up speed. Now, you might be wondering, well, why wasn't that recent Kamchatka quake more destructive? There's a great analogy that helps explain this. Think of Kamchatka with its shallow angle like a longbow. It releases a ton of energy, but it's over a long, slow flex. Now, Japan has a steep subduction angle. It's like a compact, powerful composite bow. It releases the same amount of energy, but in a much shorter, more violent snap. And that snap is what creates those absolutely devastating tsunamis. From here, the theory ventures into even more incredible territory. It starts linking this underground slab not just to future disasters, but to ancient myths and the very shape of the continent itself. So when scientists mapped the southern half of this subterranean slab, they found something really weird. It appears to be, well, broken, sheared clean off deep underground. And the theory suggests this catastrophic break might have been the very event that formed the Mariana Trench, the deepest point on the entire planet. And this is where it gets really wild. This geological theory seems to echo an ancient Chinese mythology. There's this classic text, the Shanhai Jing, that talks about a great drain in the eastern sea that just swallows all the world's waters. And for centuries, legends told of a vast ancient sea right beneath Beijing. Incredibly, modern seismic data has actually detected a water reservoir deep under the city that could hold as much water as the entire Arctic Ocean. Then, researchers propose an even more mind-bending idea. What if the slab shaped the entire landscape of China? The alignment is stunning. The western edge of the slab lines up exactly with the great geographical step dividing China's highlands and lowlands. The flat North China Plain sits right on top of the intact northern part of the slab, while the hilly south sits right above the broken part. Coincidence? Maybe, but it's a huge one. The speculation doesn't even stop there. If this slab could flatten mountains to create plains, could its immense force pushing up against the Tibetan Plateau have carved out something else? A vast, hidden subterranean world? Maybe like the mythical kingdom of Shambhala? It's a wild thought, I know, but it really highlights the limits of our knowledge. To put things in perspective, the deepest humanity has ever drilled is a mere 12 kilometers. Just 12. The geological events we're talking about are happening 400 to 600 kilometers down. And that leaves us with this final, humbling thought from the source material. Faced with forces that can hide an ocean beneath a continent and plunge a tectonic plate deep into the mantle, our own existence is put into pretty sharp relief. What other secrets does the deep earth hold? And what does the acceleration of this death slab truly mean for the millions living right on top of it? The theory leaves that as a question we may soon be forced to answer.